Sleep in the garage or get out, my father announced at our Thanksgiving dinner, completely avoiding my eyes. Don't be selfish, Maeve. We need the space, my brother smirked, cutting into the roasted turkey that I had just paid for. I did not scream. I did not cry. I simply stood up, packed my bags and walked out into the freezing cold night. But 1 week later, my father's desperate phone call shattered his perfect illusion. Wait, he panicked, his voice trembling like a trapped prey. What do you mean you emptied the $100,000 medical fund? Thank you for watching this video. Before I take you back there, do me one small favor. Take a second to like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is where you are. It helps more than you know. My name is Maeve. I am 28 years old. And for the last 4 years, I was the invisible ATM for a family that viewed my sacrifice as their birthright. I work as a medical laboratory technician right here in Columbus, Ohio. My entire professional life is dedicated to analyzing blood panels, finding the hidden truths in the microscopic numbers that doctors rely on to save lives. I am absolutely accustomed to looking at the cold, hard, undeniable facts of biology. It is a profound shame that I did not apply that exact same analytical rigor to the toxic bloodline of my own family. My 65-year-old father, Winston, suffered from severe cardiac issues and advanced diabetes. His medical bills were an absolute nightmare. The specialized prescriptions and insulin alone cost $1,200 every single month. And then there was the mortgage on his sprawling, aging suburban house, which demanded another $1,100 every 30 days. Winston lived in a state of sheer denial. He genuinely believed his meager retirement pension and standard Medicare covered all of these staggering expenses. He thought the money I occasionally handed over was just a little extra grocery cash to help out around the kitchen. He was utterly clueless. I had secretly built a $100,000 medical fund under my own exclusive name, pouring every single hour of hospital overtime, every brutal holiday shift, and every annual bonus into keeping his heart beating and keeping a solid roof over his head. I did it because my mother passed away when I was 19 years old, and I was absolutely terrified of losing him too. But in the twisted hierarchy of our family dynamic, I was just the silent workhorse. My 34-year-old brother Vance was the undeniable golden child. He was undisputed royalty. Vance lived out of state with his spoiled wife, Kendall, chasing cryptocurrency dreams and freelance illusions, while I scrubbed laboratory test tubes and desperately balanced the household budget. Vance never sent a single dime to help. He never even called unless he needed something for himself. Little did they know that the very empire they felt so incredibly entitled to was built entirely on my breaking back. The nightmare officially started exactly 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. The phone rang late on a Sunday evening. It was Vance. He had hit a rough patch and suddenly needed to move back home for a few months to get back on his feet. The words temporary setback rolled off his tongue with staggering arrogance. I immediately told my father this was a terrible idea. Our house only had 3 bedrooms. One was the master suite where he slept, one was my private sanctuary, and the third was a tiny, cramped storage room completely filled with his massive oxygen tanks and vital medical supplies. "He is my son, Maeve," my father said, his voice dripping with spineless guilt. "Family helps family." That was his favorite catchphrase. Family helps family. It only ever applied when his precious son was the one who needed the saving. 3 days later, a massive commercial moving truck pulled into our quiet driveway. Vance and Kendall did not look like desperate people struggling with poverty. They unloaded dozens of heavy designer boxes, premium leather luggage, and an absurdly expensive espresso machine. Kendall stepped into the narrow hallway, took one sweeping look at our modest, aging home, and her face twisted in utter disgust. She looked at me like I was the hired peasant help standing in the middle of her new castle. They did not want the cramped storage room. They wanted my room. For the next 2 weeks, the house turned into an absolute war zone. Kendall systematically threw out my favorite ceramic mugs because they did not match her aesthetic. She complained loudly about my early morning hospital schedule. Vance strutted around the living room like a king reclaiming his rightful throne, openly mocking my quiet, dedicated life. They held hushed, secretive family meetings in the kitchen, stopping the conversation the exact moment I walked into the room. The mask was rapidly slipping, revealing the sheer greed hiding underneath their fake smiles. Then came the calculated ambush. It was a freezing Tuesday evening. Vance cornered me in the narrow hallway while my father hovered nervously in the background, staring intently at the floorboards. "We have been thinking," Vance said, crossing his arms with a smug sense of superiority. "3 adults in this house is manageable. 4 is just pushing it to the limit. You are single, Maeve. You do not need a whole master bedroom to yourself. We need to clear out your stuff by the weekend. We will put a little space heater in the garage for you. It is only temporary, don't be selfish." The garage, an uninsulated, damp, concrete box that routinely dropped below freezing during the Ohio winter nights. I slowly turned and looked at my father. I waited for him to speak. I waited for him to fiercely protect the daughter who had kept a warm roof over his fragile head. Instead, he completely crumbled under his golden boy's demanding gaze. "It makes sense, Maeve," my father whispered into the silence. "Don't be difficult. Family helps family." My blood turned to pure ice. I felt absolutely nothing. No burning tears. No explosive rage. Just a profound, chilling clarity that washed over my entire soul. They had deliberately trapped me in a corner, expecting me to immediately surrender to their royal demands. Little did they know, arrogant predators always underestimate the quiet, observing prey. The unbearable tension finally snapped at our Thanksgiving dinner. I had bought the massive turkey with my own debit card. I had paid for the expensive organic vegetables that Kendall insisted on having for her special diet. But Kendall aggressively took over the kitchen that afternoon and acted like she was generously hosting a charity event for a lowly peasant. During the silent, suffocating dinner, Vance looked at me from across the dining table. His eyes were cold, calculating, and entirely devoid of empathy. "We need your room completely cleared out by tomorrow morning," he declared, waving his silver fork. "Dad agrees. You are just throwing a few bucks at the grocery bill anyway. It is not like you actually contribute to the real heavy expenses of running this household." I looked directly at my father. "Are you seriously going to let him put me in the freezing garage?" My father refused to meet my eyes. He set his fork down on the porcelain plate. "Sleep in the garage or get out," he announced, his voice totally hollow. "Don't be selfish, Maeve. We need the space," Vance smirked. That smirk, that utterly staggering sense of royal entitlement. My face remained an icy mask. "Okay," I said quietly. I stood up from the table. I walked down the hall to my bedroom. I packed exactly 2 large suitcases with my essential clothes and laboratory scrubs. I walked back past the dining room table where they sat in stunned, breathless silence. "I am not abandoning you, Dad," I said, my voice completely dead of any lingering emotion. "But I am not staying in a house where I am treated like disposable trash." I walked out the front door into the freezing cold night and drove my car straight to my best friend Hazel's apartment across town. I sat on Hazel's soft fabric couch. I still did not shed a single tear. I calmly opened my silver laptop. It was finally time to show them exactly what their favorite phrase, "family helps family," actually cost in the real world. I logged into the secure banking portal. I navigated straight to the automatic payments tab. Monthly mortgage payment. Cancelled. Utility and electric bills. Cancelled. Premium medical insurance installments. Cancelled. Pharmacy auto refill for the cardiac medication. Cancelled. Then I opened the primary savings dashboard. The $100,000 medical fund sat there in bold digital numbers. My legal name was the only name on that federal account. It was my money saved from years of my own blood, sweat, and absolute isolation. With exactly 3 clicks of the mouse, I transferred the entire staggering sum into a brand new, highly secured private account at a completely different federal credit union. I softly closed the laptop monitor. The snare was set. The trap was fully armed. 7 days later, their fragile stolen empire began to violently crumble. My cell phone rang while I was on my lunch break at the clinic. It was my father. He sounded utterly frantic, gasping for air. "Maeve," he panicked. The local pharmacy just called me. They said the debit card on file was totally declined. They want $1,200 for my insulin and heart medication. You need to update your card right now. I am almost out of pills. I am not paying for it anymore, I said smoothly, my voice echoing like frozen glass. Vance is the man of the house now. Have him pay for it. 2 hours later, Vance called my number. He was screaming so loudly the audio distorted. Are you absolutely insane? I cannot pay $1,200 for his medication. Medicare is supposed to cover this federal prescription. Medicare does not cover all of it, Vance, I replied, perfectly calm. I covered it. Every single month for 4 long years. Well, use the damn savings, he yelled, his facade completely shattering. Dad said you manage his medical fund. That fund was 100% my money, earned from my laboratory job, I stated coldly. And I took every single penny of it with me when you evicted me into the freezing cold garage. The silence on the line was profound. I could literally hear his arrogant reality shattering into a million sharp pieces. But that was only the very first domino to fall. 3 days after the pharmacy incident, the federal warning letters started arriving in their mailbox. The automatic mortgage payment had bounced entirely. My father called me again, openly weeping into the receiver. Maeve, the bank is officially threatening federal foreclosure proceedings. They said the escrow account is completely empty. The monthly mortgage is $1,100. I thought my retirement pension covered the house. Your tiny pension covers the annual property taxes and your car insurance, Dad. I paid the mortgage, I said, my tone utterly flat. How much? He sobbed, his voice cracking. Over the last 4 years? Including the medical bills and the utilities? I have paid nearly $100,000 in cash to keep you alive and comfortably housed. And you threw me in the garage so your precious son could have a bigger closet. The very next evening, there was a violent, desperate pounding on Hazel's apartment door. It was Kendall. Her carefully crafted facade of wealthy superiority was completely shattered. Her face was totally drained of color, her hair wild and unkempt. You have to fix this right now, she shrieked on the concrete sidewalk. The utility company is sending a federal shut-off notice tomorrow. Vance has absolutely no money in his checking account. We are completely broke. I stepped out onto the porch and handed her a thick, heavy manila envelope. Inside were the printed, certified bank statements, the undeniable, federal proof of my long financial reign over that household. You wanted my bedroom so badly, Kendall? I smiled, perfectly calm while she hyperventilated. Enjoy it. It costs exactly $3,000 every single month to keep the lights and the heat on in that beautiful room. The garage is cold this time of year, isn't it? Have a wonderful night. I slammed the heavy wooden door shut right in her face. The collapse of their family unit was absolute. Under the staggering, crushing weight of actual financial responsibility, Vance and Kendall turned on each other like starved rabid predators. Unable to maintain her luxurious lifestyle, Kendall packed her designer leather bags and fled back out of state. She filed official divorce papers at the county courthouse exactly 2 weeks later. Vance, entirely unable to pay the staggering financial arrears and too proud to get a minimum wage job, abandoned my father. He rented a cheap, moldy room on the bad side of town and completely stopped answering his phone. Left utterly alone and drowning in debt, my father was legally forced to sell the beloved family home to avoid a federal bank foreclosure. He used the tiny bit of remaining equity to move into a cramped, state-subsidized senior apartment complex. There was no golden child there to save him. There was only the deafening, haunting silence of the lonely bed he had made for himself. He left me a long voicemail last month, crying uncontrollably, begging for my forgiveness. He finally realized that he traded the only loyal daughter, who truly loved him, for a parasitic son who only loved his wallet. 1 year later, I am entirely at peace. I am sitting on the sunny balcony of my brand new beautiful townhouse. I used my $100,000 fund as a massive down payment for the property deed. I have a thriving medical career, a peaceful, quiet home, and absolute financial freedom, while they are drowning forever in the devastating consequences of their own sheer greed. I gained a profound sense of self-worth that no amount of their fake family loyalty could ever buy. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop setting yourself on fire just to keep other people warm. Family helps family, right? Well, this time I finally helped myself. Thank you so much for watching. Have you ever had to legally and emotionally walk away from toxic family members just to save yourself? If you love this story of karma, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.